Good evening. Thank you for joining. Our company is migrating to the cloud, so today I'll clarify what cloud really means, the main service and deployment models, and the security, privacy, and compliance impact that leadership should understand. First of all, let's define what cloud means. Cloud is on-demand access to shared compute, storage, and services over the network. You know, it is summed up by five traits: is on-demand self-service, is broad network access, resource pooling, just rapid elasticity and measured services. Under the hood, virtualization makes all of that possible. Type 1 hypervisors like ESXi, Hyper-V, and KVM run directly on hardware to host multiple VMs. Containers basically raise the density by sharing the host OS while isolating, the applications themselves. With that, let's compare the service layers we can actually choose from. The different service layers are IaaS. With IaaS we control OS, apps, and data. The provider manages the data center and then the hypervisor. For PaaS, we focus on code and data. The platform handles runtime, auto scaling, and patching. We gain speed, but need a mature software development lifecycle and then secret management for this part. SaaS, the provider delivers a full application. Our levels are identity, which is SSO MFA, the role design, and then just data governance across that. For the DaaS, which is more so around desktop and then app streamed as a service, useful for contractors and then just regulatory data. Where do the services live? That is basically what are those deployment choices that we have in deploying them. We can deploy to the public cloud, which is fastest so far, broadest services, and then have more global reach. You have like a strong multi-tenant isolation, from providers. Or we can do a private cloud. Private cloud is more so dedicated resources for high control or regulatory needs. There's a higher cost and operational responsibility for that, and then hybrid. I think for most organizations they run hybrid situation where they have some workload in the cloud and then some workload on-prem, some which gives them that flexibility. And then we have the community shared, like the Gov Cloud. Let's put on-prem and basically cloud options, side by side and compare and contrast. With local resources, we have on-prem is hardware and facility intensive. SaaS and DaaS, just minimize local footprint. Control, on-prem gives full control and full responsibility basically. Network on-prem optimizes for LAN, could require just reliable, wireless WAN, and then just private connectivity options. Security tops cloud risks. Are basically just misconfigurations, identity abuse, exposed keys, and just insecure APIs that can be mitigated with MFO or SSL. APIs and services are the new parameter basically, and then we can easily address that. We're moving from monolithic to microservices, and to services to service communicating via APIs and events. It just benefits that whole independent scaling and then faster changes itself. What is the security shift that we can adopt? Just protecting the interface and identities between services, by using API gateways for Auth-N and then Auth-Z, schema validation, and then just throttling with all of Um, Security, storage, and then just the leg of privacy. Identity first, and then enforce SSO and MFA list. Just privilege roles, just-in-time access, and then break glass procedure. Just encrypting data at rest and in transit. Just know who holds the key, and then just set rotation policies would help to keep all of this in check. So, what actually goes wrong often, and how do we prevent this? Common failures are maybe overly permissive identities, and then just security groups, public storage keys that are exposed, hard coded or leaked secret, and then just exposed APIs. How we can prevent this is by identity first, which is using SSO MFA, and then we can do conditional access, least privilege, and then just time bound role configuration for the landing zone itself. We can have more logging, just centralized logs. What is our path forward that we'll put in place, and what would this help us achieve? If we establish a landing zone that is standardized across account and subscription, more so networking, IAM encryption, default login, and then guardrails from just day to day. We'll enforce policy as code, just enforce like CIS aligned baseline, pre-deployment rules, block non-compliant resources at the pipeline level itself. If we enforce identity unification, SSO MFA everywhere, basically, just least privilege rules, just-in-time access, and audited break glass accounts as we go on a regular basis. Then we just do a data-led migration classification. We classify all of the data, map all of the controls from, sensitive, and then we migrate them into the different storage models. Security looks faster, with faster delivery, just reduces misconfiguration itself, So I'm really happy to follow up with migration controls and checklists as we go on a day-to-day basis for the next 90 days while we go through this migration process. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I look forward to working with you for the implementation, because remote work will continue to expand. Proactive design based on solid principle itself reduces risk and strengthens the organization's ability to just withstand evolutionary threats. So the cost of prevention is far lower than the cost of bridge recovery itself. So migrating to the cloud and expanding would reduce cost and help us. Thank you very much.